The Contaminated Blood campaign seeks to raise awareness to the many thousands of people who have been infected with contaminated blood following, amongst other things, transfusions. This is unquestionably mass negligence on the part of the British government, and successive governments have also failed to compensate people who have been infected. Over 2,000 people are dead as a direct consequence of contaminated blood, and in many respects will never receive justice. However, those remaining are determined to make sure that these people did not die in vain. We joined the peaceful protest for the Contaminated Blood campaign outside David Cameron's constituency office to call on the Prime Minister to finally address this issue. These are some of those interviews. I'm here today with Dave Ledbetter from the Contaminated Blood campaign. Now, Dave, obviously we're outside David Cameron's constituency office in Witney. Why are you here today?
I came personally to deliver him a letter.
Okay.
I've seen him twice, once in 2010 and again in 2012. He's been trying to sort this problem out that we've got, and he doesn't make any promises, but he keeps making the right noises, and you think something's going to happen and nothing happens. The last correspondence I had with him, he was meeting Alistair Burt, MP, and his constituents in the same situation as I'm in, and contaminated victims, and he'd get back to me. Well, he got back to me, said he's met Mr. Burt. Mr. Burton is going to talk to other people,
right.
And that's all they do.
So it's a lot of talking, isn't it?
Talk.
It's always a lot of talking. Give us a little bit of background history. This is related to the contaminated blood scandal of like the 70s and 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
And you are contaminated.
I was told I was contaminated in
and how did
1986. That occur? I had factor VIII treatment, and I had a health visitor knock on my door one day and say, "Oh, we need to do a blood test. We think we might give you AIDS." I had the blood test, me and the wife, and a couple of weeks later they came back and said, "Good news, bad news. We didn't give you AIDS, but we did give you hepatitis non-A, non-B."
And what does that mean in the long term?
At the time, they said it doesn't mean anything at all.
Right.
It's like getting measles. Once you've had the virus, you'll have it forever, but no health issues. 10 years down the line, they realised that people had started to develop cirrhosis of the liver and cancers and dying from it.
How has it impacted you?
Well, in many ways, many different ways. I mean, the fatigue that you get. I mean, the antiviral drugs that they prescribe to try and kill the virus. I mean, is nearly kills you anyway.
Right.
It's terrible.
Now, I often hear when it comes to medical issues, whether it's invisible illnesses, there is often a problem within the establishment to acknowledge how far-reaching these issues are, and often it's an issue of compensation. It's a financial issue.
Yeah.
Is
definitely.
it the same thing with you, do you feel?
Yeah, we want compensation. We'd like the NHS to admit that what they've done. They won't admit liability, that, we can't take them to court or anything like that. So where's our justice?
Absolutely. But they did admit by that very first knock on your door that they were responsible in some way.
They admit they give it to us.
Right.
They give us the viruses, but they're not. They won't say it's their fault. I personally, I think they should have made sure it was cleaner and safer to use before they started using it on 5,000 haemophiliacs.
Right. Now, I've been reading up on this, and one of the things that strikes me is that you're one of the fortunate ones. You're still here.
Yeah, all of us here today are so lucky that we're still here today.
And there are
many
literally
colleagues
thousands who have already died.
Over half of us have died.
And this has not been acknowledged.
Not really, no. Not by the government, not by the NHS. Not.
So you are forced, presumably you're poorly.
Yeah.
And so you're forced literally to come out here on a wet and windy day
Yeah.
and try and raise more awareness to this.
Yeah, because we've only ever been a small number of people that haven't been able to get the impact that we need to get the government to act on it.
Right.
I mean, they do little bits, but never enough.
And in terms of obviously the people who have been contaminated, the other thing that there are a number of issues because there are a number of different groups representing.
We were infected with a number of different viruses,
right.
Depending which virus you get, depending on your lifestyle, your genetic makeup, depends on whether you're already dead or still alive today, really.
Right.
And the government have split us up into different sections. If you've got HIV, you get X amount. If you've got Hep C, you get X amount. If you get Hep C and liver cirrhosis, you get another amount. I mean, I get 3 prescriptions.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's the sum total?
Yeah. Oh, and there's a begging bowl called Caxton as well.
Right.
That David Cameron's government set up. But, I mean, if you ask for any help financially, then it can take you months to get an answer.
So which department is ultimately responsible for you and for ensuring that the rest of your life runs a great deal more smoothly than it has to this point?
No one, as far as I know.
But somebody has to be. Somebody has to be responsible.
Who?
Well,
no one will take responsibility.
Therein lies the question, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
they've acknowledged that it was their faulty systems that contaminated you. But
They won't say it's a faulty system.
Right, what would they say?
The medicine we were given by them had the viruses in. They're not taking any responsibility for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Fuzzy logic.
empirical scientific evidence do you have that would say who is responsible to back you up? Because I know that this is a long-term campaign that you've been doing.
The Archer inquiry answered a lot of questions like that. There's a Penrose inquiry going on at the moment in Scotland. It's been going on for about 6 years. Hopefully that will answer a lot of those questions as well. But people don't like coming forward and saying, oh, it was me that, I signed the ticket that said
no,
the NHS can use this contaminated treatment.
Right.
They knew it was contaminated. They knew years before it was contaminated. I mean, there's people here so young that weren't even born when I was contaminated, yet they've been contaminated later.
Right.
So
this is not something that was rectified there?
No, it went on for 20 years.
Right, okay.
I mean, most of the haemophiliacs now, we've either got AIDS and hepatitis, one or both. And we've also been informed that we've been exposed to CJD through the same treatment.
Right. Well, I'm very, very sorry to hear that, Dave. What can anybody watching this, what can we do to help you and support you in any way?
Just to acknowledge the fact that, we were infected by the NHS, by the government health service, and we hold the government responsible. I mean, they admit themselves something went wrong, and we need help, but no one's man enough to come up with the proper help and compensation that we deserve and respect.
Absolutely. Dave Ledbetter, thank you so much for talking to us there. I really do hope that you can raise the awareness that you need.
Thanks.
Thank you. This is Glenn Wilkinson, the founding member of the Contaminated Blood campaign. Thank you so much for inviting us here today, Glenn.
Thanks for coming.
Well, it's really important, and obviously you are desperate to raise awareness to this issue.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How's it faring so far today?
It's been a good turnout today, and we've had plenty of press turn up, so we're very pleased with the way it's gone.
Now, how long have you been involved with this campaign? Why were you forced to found it?
I basically got involved in campaigning because I became aware that I was infected with hepatitis C. I'm a haemophiliac, and I'm given blood products to help my blood clot. However, I had a tooth extracted in 1983. It was elective surgery, so it wasn't life-threatening or anything. I went into hospital, had the tooth removed, was given factor VIII concentrate, had no idea I was even given a blood product. Given no warning, certainly no warning that it was ever infected, and didn't find out about it until 1995, some years later. Came as a complete shock, complete bolt out of the blue. The doctor sat there and explained to me the progression of hepatitis C, how it transfers from infection, chronic, cirrhosis, liver cancer. And I was just in a different world when he told me. I was absolutely terrified. I'd only had a few minutes off from my dinner hour, and I was left devastated. At that very moment, I was plunged into a different world.
Right.
And from that moment on, I decided that I was going to look into why I was infected. And what I found out at the beginning, I really didn't believe what I was reading and what I was learning. And the more and more research I did, it really did read like some sort of conspiracy theory. It's actually true what happened. And basically what happened is the British government in the late 70s did not become self-sufficient in blood products, and so they ended up buying it from abroad, including America. Because of the way it's sourced in America, they have a paid donor system over there. and you had what are called skid row donors, drug addicts, prostitutes who were giving the blood. Some people, were desperate on the margins of society, just trying to earn and get a few dollars for the next fix, potentially. The blood products in the United States became massively infected because, particularly with the pooled blood products that they used, it meant that people at that time, back in the 70s and 80s, were becoming infected with HIV at the time, and the FDA in America refused the license for them to sell it in America. So the FDA decided that it would try and sell this material abroad, and actually was authorised to do just that.
At that moment, when you were able to sort of trace some history to what had taken place, what you must have been experiencing, I can't even begin to imagine.
It was incredulous.
Yes.
I just didn't believe what I was reading.
Right.
And I think the fact that it is so incredible, such an incredible story, I think that's in a way what the government and the Department of Health had behind, because they actually think nobody would actually believe.
Well, it is that conspiracy theory thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like sort of, we're all wearing tin hats or something.
And people probably look and think, can we really believe that? But in 2007, between 2007 and 2009, there was an independent inquiry took place, conducted by Lord Archer of Sandwell, and this went into great detail and looked in great depth at the contaminated blood scandal. And it did indeed find that the government were responsible for importing infected product from America, and they were giving it to people without warning them. And incredibly, and this is another thing which I think people find difficult to believe, I know I did when I first started hearing about it, they actually used people as experimental guinea pigs.
Right.
So they had this material, and they were giving it to particularly haemophiliacs, people who had never had it before, to see what actually happened to them. And they were called PUPs, previously untreated patients.
Right.
So we're actually used as guinea pigs on top of everything else.
Right.
And from our infection to this very day, coming to seeing Mr. Cameron, or trying to, because he won't speak with us, we've just faced ignorance and contempt all the way down the line.
Now, so you have an official study into this, or an official report into this, which acknowledges...
Which has nothing to do with us.
No, absolutely. It's an independent, which acknowledges the source of this, but this is still being denied.
Well, they don't really give so many answers. They don't like to answer so many questions.
No.
And they have paid scraps of what they call ex gratia payments to us. They don't call it compensation, because that would open up legal ramifications.
Absolutely.
But they call it ex gratia payments. But the amounts that have been paid, particularly to certain groups, has been derisory. Nobody has been treated fairly, I think that's fair to say. People with HIV, people with hepatitis C. But with hepatitis C, they've divided us into two groups, what they call a stage 1 and a stage 2.
Right.
And the people in stage 1 get absolutely nothing. We have a fight with Caxton, I think David had better mentioned earlier. They've set up an organisation called the Caxton Foundation. This is an organisation that is run by ex-Department of Health and ex-NHS officials.
It's the same
old story. And the very
story.
people that were responsible back in the day, some of those are put in certain positions.
Right.
And it absolutely stinks.
Well, the problem is I hear about this over and over again. The IPCCC, which was set up to obviously monitor police behaviour, is run primarily by ex-police, and you hear this over and over again. So it doesn't surprise me, but I'm sure it surprises people when they're plunged into it for the first time and having to deal with this.
Absolutely.
What is the way forward for you? Because clearly, this is a dire situation. We're talking about thousands of people who are already dead.
Yes.
Clearly, some very ill people already struggling to cope with the lot.
People dying right now. There's two people that we're aware of in the campaign who have been given terminal illness.
Right.
Been given a terminal illness statement by the health officials, and one of these individuals got 3 months to live.
Right.
So it really is a dire situation that needs resolving now.
Right.
Not in a year's time, not in 16 months' time or 2 years' time.
So in terms of resolving, you need full acknowledgement of what's taken place.
Yes.
And
people do need to actually be compensated for that. And we're not talking about, for want of a better word, a sort of blood money, but people's lives will have been altered irreparably, and you do need to be financially helped, presumably, just to be able to live your life in certain ways.
Yeah, I think there is a deserved element of compensation with all this.
Absolutely.
Because people have either had their careers altered to the extent where they're not able to achieve their full potential,
Right.
or they've lost the job altogether, or they not only not able to work, but not able to function as human beings. And you know, as I just mentioned earlier, some have been given terminal illness, and it really is quite a sad and desperate situation that we're facing.
Yes.
And we just need somebody like David Cameron to stand up and say, look, this has gone on far too long. Decade after decade we've been waiting and fighting and travelling all around the country to try and get this sorted. Backwards and forwards to London, placards, knocking on doors, speaking with health ministers, and we just get nowhere fast. And we haven't got that long to live, a lot of us. And certainly in terms of our health, it's been compromised all the time on a regular basis.
Right.
So yes, compensation is an element. It's not the only thing. We'd like to think that we're being treated properly health-wise. We certainly haven't been. I've been on various treatments for hepatitis C, and the standard of care that I've received has been incredibly poor. And the third round of treatment actually nearly killed me.
Right.
And we are aware of people who have been on treatment who have died just because of the treatment.
Right. Len Wilkinson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
During the protest, we learnt that David Cameron was in town, and as he failed to show up at his constituency office, we decided to go and pay him a little visit at his home, a 15-minute drive away. Here's what happened.
We're here in the village of Dean in Oxfordshire. We're just outside Prime Minister David Cameron's house. I'm here with Glenn Wilkinson. I was with Glenn Wilkinson earlier. We've made a film which we will be uploading, but we just wanted to come here. We wanted to see if we could catch the Prime Minister. It's really important because members of the same group that Glenn's involved with are desperate actually to have a meeting with David Cameron, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And that's not forthcoming, is it?
No. One of our members of our team, he is a constituent of David Cameron, and he did try to arrange a meeting with him, and he flatly refused. So we've been into Whitney today to try and speak with him at his constituency office. He's having none of it. So it looks like we have to go to these lengths to actually come to his home address, which seems a bit ridiculous.
It is a bit ridiculous, but it is, unfortunately, desperate times call for desperate measures, don't they?
Yeah.
So we are hoping, actually, that the Prime Minister will be lovely if he actually showed, and we could ask him some very, very important questions with regard to the contaminated blood issue. What if you had an opportunity to have him here right this minute? What would be like the first thing you'd want to say to him?
I think I'd say to him, stop messing about. We have waited for decades now. People are dying in their droves, and we just need it sorting out. We don't want to wait any longer. We don't have the time to wait. Please, just sort it out so that we can get on with our lives. That's what I like to say.
And I mean, why do you think that they're not sorting it out? And we talked earlier, obviously, about the mandatory issue that if they make the admission that this has occurred.
I don't know if it's just that. I think they just don't like admitting anything.
Right.
They accept that they give us these contaminated blood products, and that's why they've done the little pieces that they have. But they're very, very careful. They call it ex gratia support. They don't never call it compensation, and they don't do it specifically because they know if they do, then it's going to open them up to legal action.
Right. Well, hopefully we can catch Mr. Cameron today. I mean, what are the chances? But it was worth a shot anyway, if only really to make a sort of a symbolic stance that it's not acceptable what's taken place. And I truly believe that all of these MPs can only run and hide for so long. And oh, look, here comes a Range Rover. We might just be in luck. You never know. You never know. Ooh. No? Anyway, it's David Cameron's door. We can't see him, so we thought we might as well go and knock and see if he's there. Actually, should we do that? Come on then, let's do it, Glenn. No answers yet. Wouldn't necessarily know that the Prime Minister of England lived in this house, would you really? If
You'd
you
never know
rolled
it by
past
looking at it, would you? No. The door's a bit messy.
It is a little bit. It really is a little bit. I'm surprised that the security haven't come out yet.
It appears that even when you do go to these lands, you still don't get an answer.
That's very symbolic, isn't it? You still is. Look at that.
Travel from the other end of England.
Yep, here we go, and it's coming back down again. This is not a coincidence, people. Right, okay. That's going to park up. Yeah, they know we're here. But it's free country, I do believe.
Used to be.
Yeah. I know you make a passable double of that.
Looking at us.
Oh yes, but we had more than that on New Year's Eve. They came out with the big rifles, which...
I'm a bit worried if you see a red dot on your chest.
Yes. Exactly. I mean, this must be so frustrating for you, Glenn. You know, Glenn has actually travelled from Yorkshire to Oxfordshire. So important is this because, you know, it is quite literally a matter of life and death to you, isn't
Absolutely, and people have travelled from a lot further. People have travelled from Scotland today to try and get some answers, and we're just first blanks every time, and it really isn't acceptable.
No.
As I said, this has been going on for decades, and this is typical of the sort of answer we get from government, from the Department of Health, from the NHS, from various ministers. We just draw a blank every time.
Right.
People are dying, people are suffering, and there shouldn't have to go through this.
No, we certainly shouldn't. I think what we should also do is perhaps post through David Cameron's door a list of the points in the report that he really needs to look at, and then they can't say we haven't done that because we've literally put it through his home door. So should we do that? Have you got that in the car?
Yes.
Let's grab that and pop that through his letterbox. This is the desperate measures that people in our country are forced to take because the people who are elected to govern over us, and I do appreciate that David Cameron wasn't elected to the role of Prime Minister. He is a Prime Minister without mandate, and he's carrying out in his name certainly some of the most heinous acts against our people that I have known in my entire lifetime. As I said before, he's not in isolation. He could not be able to do this on his own. He's backed up by all of the parties and people above and beyond them. Nonetheless, the bottom line is this: that gentleman over there is very ill. He needs help and he needs answers, and we have been forced to come to Dean to get them. And there is a gentleman here that I could ask a question of. Are you disappearing? Well, look at that. Look at that. That's phenomenal. That's one of David Cameron's security detail. He didn't even feel that he needs to even have a conversation with me. I'm wondering whether he's going to get various weapons out or not. Right, Glenn.
I've got various pieces of paperwork here that I'd like to put through.
Would you just like to briefly explain what you've got there?
There's several pieces of information. This is quite an important one. This is our document that we've dedicated to a very good friend of mine and a fellow campaigner, Oliver Carruthers. Ollie died on the 28th of August 2012 of a complication of hepatitis C, and he's never had justice, and he never will now. Whatever happens, this man will not have justice. The best that can be done for Ollie is to do something for his family. So that's a very important document, and we've got several other pieces there, including a list of extracts taken from the Archer inquiry, which lists some of the specific points that Lord Archer raised in his document, which shows that the government did know that these blood products were infected and continued to give them to people anyway, and the fact that they're used as guinea pigs. This is not acceptable in any society, let alone a Western society. This is the sort of action that you would expect from a third-rate tin pot dictatorship, not a British government. It's absolutely shameful that we have to go to these lengths to get our message across. I just hope that David Cameron listens to what we're telling him for once and for all.
Alright, do you want to put them through the letterbox? Because nobody can say we haven't actually delivered them to, can't get them. Right, then we should let's go through 5 then. I doubt they'll take them, but hello. Hiya. Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Don't get out, you'll get wet. Just like us. My name's Sonia Poulton. I'm a journalist and broadcaster. I'm here with this gentleman, Glenn Wilkinson. We are very desperate. We are very desperate just to pop these through a letterbox for David Cameron. It's about basically people who are dying from contaminated blood. We've been at the constituency office today and we just want literally to pop them through a letterbox.
Best thing to do is to address them to Downing Street.
We have done that thousands of times.
2,000 people
the
are
message
dead.
just isn't getting through. 5,000 people are infected with contaminated blood products and people are dying in their droves. There's only a few of us left now and we just want some answers. We're facing a blank. Every time we try and contact the NHS, the Department of Health, various ministers, nobody's listening to us. And we've had to go to these lengths now to try and get the message hopefully through to David Cameron. Just hope that he listens. I'd just like to have some paperwork.
Right. I hope you can appreciate our position, sir. We're not a postal service. The best thing I can advise you to do is put them in the post to Downing Street. And I can't help you any further today, I'm afraid.
The thing is, of course you're not a postal service and we're not asking you to deliver them. We want to pop them through a letterbox. That's all we want to do. Is that not allowed? Are we not allowed to do that?
You won't be able to do that here, I'm afraid. The best thing for you to do, as I've just stated, is to put them in the post.
That's an official office that will take care of all of that.
Unfortunately not. There's 2,000 people dead waiting for an official office to take care of that.
Right, well, all I can say is in our position here, we can't authorise you posting that at this address. Okay. All I'm saying is there is an official office that will take care of any post for the Prime Minister. So all I'm saying is I would suggest you take that, post it to the Prime Minister through the normal channels.
What do you do when you've done that?
Yeah.
And nothing happens?
Like I say, that's not my
that's
not my position.
But that is
my
what
position is all I can
that is what the Nazis officer said.
position
It's not. This is not my job. I'm doing my job. Well, people died exponentially. People are dying now, right now. We've got to stop saying this is my job. We have to start saying.
No, what I'm saying is
humanity matters to me.
Yeah. What I'm saying to you is that I can't authorise you to post that here. There's a proper channel to go through, and that's what I'm suggesting you do. The political side of it has nothing to do with me. I'm telling you how to deal with paperwork.
Are you not able to take that paperwork?
No, because I don't work for Mr. Cameron.
Right.
I don't work for his office.
But this
Nor does this gentleman here.
So what is your role here then?
I'm not going to go into our roles, and I'm not going to be interviewed by you. I'm telling you how to deal with that paperwork.
I see.
And that's what you have to do.
Do you know, this is the problem with the country. This is exactly the problem with the country.
This is the problem that we've been
And what we
facing
have
for
here, are two men who are only interested in their job. They're only interested in their job. They care not about the amount of people who are dying as a consequence of the man who lives in that house, who has sanctioned measures against our people. Well, I tell you what, there will come a point where you will be called to account, gentlemen. Mark my words. And remember my name, Sonia Poulton, because I will remember you. AE13CNC. Right, let's go, Glenn.
Thank you.
Okay, I make no apologies for being angry with these men. It's exactly because of people like that many millions of people die in heinous situations throughout our lifetimes, decades before us. We're going to need these papers regardless of whether they take them or not. I'm sick of all this official office nonsense. And so we're going to wedge this in David Cameron's door and hopefully it'll give him plenty of things to read this weekend, you know, while he's hunting and shooting, eh?
Yep.
The best I can do. And there they go, about their business, protecting, actually, potentially a mass murderer. But that doesn't matter to them. They don't mind. They get paid their shilling. They're quite happy. found it vaguely funny, actually, that 2,000 people have already died that we know of to do with contaminated blood. So I think we can safely say that these people have chosen their side. It's not a side that I would choose to be on. I'd rather go hungry and I'd rather be homeless than do a job like that, which protects somebody who is failing exponentially our people.
Thank you, Sonia.
Pleasure, my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. You do take good care of yourself and we will help you as much as we can, okay?
Thank God for this lady.
Oh, no. We've just come from David Cameron's constituency house. I'm still absolutely furious. And one of the reasons I'm furious is I am sick to death of people like his armed guards there doing this, well, I'm just doing my job kind of number. Well, it's not good enough, actually. We have to take some kind of responsibility for the types of jobs we do. They are protecting a man who is responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths, no doubt about it, categorically so. Even if you happen to believe, which I do, that David Cameron is not the be-all and end-all of running our country, that there are people who are pulling his strings, but at the end of the day he is prepared to put his name and face to it. He's prepared to take the filthy shilling for doing that work, and it's just really not acceptable, frankly. And and so we felt the need today to go with Glenn Wilkinson from the Contaminated Blood campaign and deliver some documents to Mr. David Cameron, who, as I should point out, refused a surgery meeting with a member of his constituency who actually has contaminated blood. Actually refused a surgery meeting. I mean, are you even allowed to do that as an MP? That tells you that this man is trying to run and hide away from what is, to me, an absolute national scandal. And we are now on our way back to David Cameron's constituency office, which is 10 miles from his village home. His village home is in Dean in Oxfordshire, and his constituency office is in Witney, and we are on our way there again, and we might be able to catch him. It's Friday afternoon, and it's not impossible, put it that way. Let's hope so, because there are so many questions I'd like to ask David Cameron, and I just feel that sooner or later our time of having that little tete-a-tete is drawing ever nearer, and I hope it's now.